While a lot of Pokemon cards have been crashing lately, some cards have been quietly rising, especially Pokemon 151. Though, what's actually causing this? Though, before I get into these prices, I'm actually gifting a subscriber this Metagross illustration rare. Now, if I reply to your comment with this Celebi emoji, then well done, you've won this card. And hey, if you do love giveaways and you love Pokemon 151, I am going live on Whatnot and giving away a bunch of Pokemon booster packs, including Pokemon 151, Destined Rivals, and Journey Together on August 15th, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And I'll speak more about that later in the video and how you can earn a $15 credit. Though, you know, at any given point in time, Pokemon cards can begin retracing in price, and then they can also start rising. Now, we're going through a bit of a weird transitional period where sealed continues to climb up and a lot of singles are dipping in price. And I suppose that doesn't really make sense in the real long term because it effectively makes the sealed look a little bit inflated. But then again, you do have to remember that sealed products are a collectible in and that of themselves. Though, check these prices out. All right, the first one here that I've got, as you can see right there, is the Mew 151 UPC Promo. Now, obviously Mew is a very desired Pokemon. You know, we have the Bubble Mew, though this card was probably sleeping for a pretty long time and now it's really climbing in price. I will go over the Pokemon 151 UPC in just a second. This one in particular, I'm really surprised about. I'm gonna pull this one into the year graph just for a second. Now, right here in August, it was selling for around $5. I know if we could go back maybe 2 or 3 months before that, it was a $3 to a $4 card. Dude, it was cheap, yeah? It was almost unbelievable at the kind of prices it was selling. Right now, this card is selling for 37 USD. That is such a big price increase. Though in the last 3 months, we can really see from $27 all the way up to 36. So it seems that the UPC and the promos within the UPC are very desired at the moment. And it makes sense, right? Because out of all the Pokemon 151 products, probably the 151 UPC had like the least amount of spotlight after it released. It was very available. You could have got the 151 UPC anywhere you went. And then after that, it's kind of like just been forgotten about almost. And there's been no reprints of it, no restocks. And I think the last time I even saw that was like early 2024. So I do imagine all the promos along with the 151 UPC are going to be very desired. Moving on to the Mewtwo promo from the same 151 Ultra Premium collection. 3 months ago, selling for 14 US. Right now, selling for $24. So like I said, the cards inside that UPC are just becoming far more desired. And I do feel it's because it is quite hard to get, right? And I mean, at the time, it was really available. And you know, that's the funniest thing, right? I remember it being so available. And that's the kind of wild thing about Pokemon cards. Along with Pokemon investing, it can just swap so quickly, man. It can shift super quick. Now, interestingly, Pokemon 151 booster packs selling for 9 US in May of this year. Right now, selling for $11. If we pull that into the 6 months, there was a little bit of a kind of dip after Blooming Waters came in. They did have a high in the market, you know, in the last 6 months for $12.50. And of course, Blooming Waters did put a lot of Pokemon 151 onto the market. Though I think 151 is one of those sets that, you know, collectors are always going to be obsessed with it. It's going to be very iconic as the years go on because, you know, you do have like every single Pokemon 151 Pokemon in there. And of course, you know, you have all the base set enthusiasts. And we can't forget that, you know, all the Generation 1 Pokemon and that whole 151 line. It is just so iconic for Pokemon and collectors. I always say it, but Gen 1 is the Magnum Opus of Pokemon. When we think of Pokemon, or when you think of it on a broad scale, nearly everyone kind of makes the connection points to Generation 1. It's like if I said Dragon Ball or Super Saiyan, it's the kind of thing that you link it with immediately. Or when we talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, it straight away goes to Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician, and Generation 1 has that same effect for Pokemon. And here, looking at the Pokemon 151 Pokemon Center exclusive ETB, check this out, $451 for the ETB, right now selling for $754. That is so much for one ETB. And, well, you know, I'm almost speechless to that. I almost cannot believe how much 151 is in demand. Like I mentioned before, you know, earlier last year, selling for $138 for the Ultra Premium collection. And, you know, it has really gone up in price. So, you know, there you go. That is a fair bit of gains on one product. And I mean, that's why people love kind of purchasing collectibles and, you know, investing in them as well. Because when you see growth like that, I mean, that is huge, huge growth for one product, right? why. So, Pokemon 151 is obviously a very desired set. And what is cool is that I will be giving away some Pokemon 151, Destined Rivals, and Journey Together booster packs on Whatnot on 15th August, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, along with doing some auctions starting at $1. Now, today's video is sponsored by Whatnot. If you've never used Whatnot before, well, it's a live shopping platform where users can sell and bid on products all in real time. Pokemon cards and trading cards are a real big part on the platform, and you can find some awesome deals while you're on the app, along with meeting a bunch of new creators. If you want to try Whatnot out, I highly recommend you join my hybrid giveaway and selling stream. In a few of the previous streams, giveaway winners have pulled some insane chase cards, including the Greninja Special Illustration Rare, along with Cynthia's Garchomp as well. Plus, you can actually purchase some Pokemon booster packs, which all get auctioned starting at $1. So feel free to join my Whatnot stream on August 15th, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. First time users can get $15 off by signing up using the link on screen or scanning the QR code. A big shout out to Whatnot for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it. And of course, the booster bundles right here, selling for $64 US in May, right now selling for $73. So they're definitely creeping up in price. If we pull that into the year graph, you can definitely see that Pokemon 151 as a whole has just been climbing up. The lowest price that this booster bundle had in the last year was $41 US. Right now selling for 71, so definitely some big growth on these products. Now, moving on to some other cards that have been climbing. Japanese promo cards at the moment have also been going up in price. Now, we did just go over that whole kind of promo hype that happened recently, right? The stained glass promos, the Greninja Gold Star, the Umbreon Gold Star, just like a huge hype train kind of built up and everyone jumped on those promos. Now, a lot of those cards have actually started going down in price again because, if you are new to collecting, what usually happens, it's going to happen probably next month as well, but some cards just start getting hyped, okay? And then when they start getting hyped, everyone jumps on it, everyone tries to buy, these cards right away at the same time, and of course the price spikes. But then when that hype isn't there anymore and it just goes back to normal levels, it starts trickling down in price. And of course, it's just this huge pendulum. It always goes up, down, up, down. Now, Japanese promo cards right now are going through a little bit of a pendulum swing upwards. In May, the Detective Pikachu promo was selling for $69 US, and now it's selling for $161. If I pull that into the year graph, in October last year, you could have got this for $31 US. So, that is substantial growth on one card. Now, another really cool one to look at is the Sun Moon promo from Red's Pikachu. 6 months ago, selling for $103 US. Now it's selling for $170. If we pull this into the year graph, we can see just there on that snapshot, huge consistent growth for this card in particular, selling for $80 in September, right now selling for $170. So we can see a lot of these cards are having steady growth in the market. Now, one that is recovering right as we speak is the Bubble Mew. And honestly, I think it's recovering probably a little bit earlier than I anticipated. But check this out. Bubble Mew went down all the way to $291 USD. And just in the last 3 months alone, now it's selling for $404. Literally recovered all of its losses. We pull this into the year graph. Look at this volatility, dude. This is why Pokemon singles are just such a weird game to play, because this is why everyone says don't kind of buy singles if you're hoping for growth, because they're just so volatile, right? Like I just showed you sealed product before. Sealed didn't have any of those kind of big spikes and drops like this. Bubble Mew selling for $91 in September last year. Then it found a market high of last year for $305 US, and then it went down to $265. Then it spiked all the way to $421, and then it went down back to $296, and now look at that, it's back to $409. Just me explaining that kind of price kind of wave of how it happened, it's wild. It just went up, down, up, down. But selling for $409 definitely is an expensive card, and of course it is one of the most iconic cards in the whole Scarlet and Violet era, so I'm not surprised that it is going back up in price, but like I said, maybe just that touch earlier than I expected. Now also, I have been live streaming a lot more lately, and if you do want to get the quickest notifications, just join my channel's Discord server. We have over 9,500 active members, and it's really been growing lately. The Discord invite is in the video's description. And there we go, we can also see the Galarian Mew from Crown Zenith is also going through a bit of a price price jump. Selling for $16 in June, now it's selling for $21. If we pull this into the month graph, you can see it already had a big spike in the market. Last year selling for $5, went all the way up to $24. And right now it looks like it's gonna just go back to kind of its previous high point. And I mean, that makes a little bit of sense because we got Bubble Mew just, so in demand. You've got the Mew 151 UPC Promo, again, so much in demand. Really cool special illustration rare. And now the Sleeping Mew as well is also getting a fair bit of love. And of course, one that was overdue is the Lugia V. In the last 3 months, selling for $271, found a low in the last 3 months for $254. Right now selling for $321 US. Not surprised at that at all. This card and all of Silver Tempest. Look, like I always say, Silver Tempest as a set, the only kind of card that's really worth chasing is this Lugia V. Whether or not Silver Tempest is that great of a set, probably not, but it does have this card, which kind of does make it look better than it kind of is. I mean, the Lugia V really pulls Silver Tempest to another level, but there we go, 321 US for this card is a pretty fair price considering how hard it is, and it's kind of weird to see all the Sword and Shield alternate arts, they've kind of been forgotten about with all the special illustration rares and, the whole Scarlet and Violet era. I'm going to be very interested to see how alt arts kind of go as the new era begins, and especially Generation 10, because don't forget on how many people re-entered the hobby because of the Sword and Shield era. Now, one that I just want to talk about is the Victini promo that I'm on right here. There you go. You can see it sold for 10 US and now it's selling for $8. So no real big price movements for this card in particular. Though for some reason, I do feel like that promo card, just like with how much promo hype, that a lot of these as the years go on are going to be more in demand. We're seeing a big shift with promo cards within the Pokemon TCG. There's almost this new era happening where people really like promo cards because there's this thing where they are just less susceptible to reprints, right? Even with the Kingdra and the Greninja promos, they kind of feel trapped in their time period. And I feel like collectors really like that at the moment. It's almost like promos, hey, they get released for their little time period. Once it's done, it's done. If you didn't get it, well, now the price is going to rise. So I am seeing a lot of promo love. I do wonder how that's going to kind of go as the years go on. One thing that's not making sense to me a little bit at the moment is the amount of chase cards and illustration rares, especially with Black Bolt, White Flare, the amount of illustration rares and special illustration rares we're getting. In terms of the longevity for these cards and where they're going to be in 15 or 20 years, I don't know if all these cards can hold their price points. Reason being, it does feel like Pokemon right now is kind of aware of how expensive Pokemon cards can get. And that era of having that one real huge chase card of an era, that to me feels like the Scarlet and Violet era is kind of where that faded away. Because when we look at Sword and Shield, we all knew of Moonbryon. That is the chase card of the Sword and Shield era. Same thing with Gen 7. We all knew it was the tag team Latios and Latias. Though now it feels like it's so spread out and the chase cards are just there's so many in the era, and that's kind of pulled the prices down for a lot of them. For example, last year, we all thought it was going to be Greninja to be the top chase card. Then Pikachu came out, and right now, the Greninja and Pikachu are still desired Pokemon cards, but with the amount of new Pokemon cards that came in, especially with Prismatic Evolutions, the playing field's all kind of changed. So I do feel there is big changes happening in the hobby. Though with all these cards rising, it does make you wonder what will happen in the next 6 months, and whether or not a lot of the Pokemon cards are going to continue to rise in price, or are they going to start coming back down. It also brings up a lot of questions relating to the insane amount of hype trains that are happening within this hobby. And I explain the hype train issue right within this video here. Within the video, I uncover how many hype trains have actually been happening within Pokemon's TCG. If you love Pokemon cards, but you're also aware that there's a lot of hype at the moment, click the video that's appearing on screen and you can learn more about that topic there. I'll see you on the next video.